Shalawam. This is Adasabat Saiwan, returning with the Nephilim study. And this is part 2, called Their Evil Technologies. Part 1, we looked at the programming and brainwashing that we have been under for generations. And now we're going to look at their evil technologies. Now, in saying this, we know that yes, they created the cell phones, telephones, whether it's landline or not, computers, what have you. These are all their devices. But I'm going to show you some major devices that they have created and what they're using these devices to bring about upon the earth. These may be things that you have never heard of or you never really considered, but this is reality. This is the evil that these Nephilim offspring that are being led by the Nephilim of old and the fallen angels to produce on this earth and to bring about the calamities that you're seeing on this earth. You see, nothing happens in a vacuum, folks. It is not a coincidence. Nothing is ever a coincidence. All right? And the first thing that you're going to hear them say, the two words, conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist, those are their words that they have coined for anyone who exposes their wickedness. I remember back in the day when I used to do a lot of research online. I was able to find independent studies, a lot of them too, to explain certain things because I'm not a physicist. I'm not interested in science and technology. But there are some people who are, not for the wicked people, but because that's their interest. All right? So they will break down exactly what these devils are doing and with the devices that they have created. Now you go back and you look for the information, all you're going to find, oh, it's a conspiracy theory that this and this and that and that. All right? Why? Because they now have full reign. I know the internet is their creation, but now because they have additional technology to control the information on the internet, now we're seeing all of these other independent studies being wiped off the internet. And all we're going to find is their information. All right? But like I've said to you before, I have done these studies for a long time. Thankfully, I can still remember a lot of it. All right? And these devils, as much as they will, you know what they will do? They will say, okay, this is what the conspiracy theorists are saying, but it is all a lie. We have the fact checkers who are saying it's all a lie. So they, in a way, still have to come and confess what the truth is, but they call it a conspiracy theory. All right, and I'll show you. I'll show you. Let's begin. Now, because the items that we're going to be looking at is going to be, they're pretty big items. So I was only able to work on 3 of these items because they're massive. All right, they're massive. And so I will have another study looking at more of these technologies, all right, the smaller ones on a smaller basis. And you'll see once we get started what I'm talking about. Now we can look at the technologies created by the Nephilim for indoctrination and mind control over the masses today. Many people still believe that men and women posing as geniuses created these devices, when in fact they were not created by mere men or women. I know a lot of people who look at the Billy Gates guy and think that he created Microsoft. He's a poster boy and not even a boy, right? But he's the face for Microsoft because they have to give you a face that you can relate to. And they also have to give you a story that you can relate to. Oh, he created this in his garage when he was a boy in university. And now he's a billionaire and in every field that you can think of. I'm going to do a particular study on him. I'm going to do a particular study on him to show you all about this creature. All right. I have all the information all in a folder already. So, and just like the ones who created Apple products and the ones who created Facebook, all these different ones, these are the Nephilim devices, their technology, but they can't come and show their true faces because we wouldn't buy it. We wouldn't accept them. We wouldn't want to use them. But if you give the masses a poster child, someone that the average man can relate to, who came from rags to riches, now people will like, yeah, I want to support this person in their endeavors and so on and so forth. So I'm going to purchase their device or devices. All right? I remember a long time ago, I was watching the Musk guy, the Elon guy, the one that bought over the Tweety Bird social media. Yes, that one. And when he was talking, he was being interviewed, and this is when he first started coming out. This was some time ago. And he came out with the Tesla car. And the interview was about how many times he failed with this car and how many times he was put down by manufacturers and what have you. And he gave such a sub story that I had tears in my eyes. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. If I had the money, I would have gone out and bought a Tesla car because this man, he is struggling to make a living. And it was a good invention. All right. I was moved by his testimony, his his interview. I don't like using testimonies for these devils, but his interview was quite moving. It moved me to tears. They know how to jerk the heart. They know how to tell a sob story to make you feel compassion towards them because this is the nature of mankind. All right? And then finally, when he didn't make it big, I was cheering him on. Yes, I was. But I wasn't a believer. Well, I wasn't into my true identity in those days. I was, Christian and, want to see the best in everyone and, all that stuff. But he comes across as a good guy, doesn't he? As this down to earth person, dancing and making jokes and hanging out with the local people, what have you. But he's as rotten as they are. He's a Nephilim child. He's one of them. He's rotten to the core. There's nothing good in him. But these people have been studying us for so many generations. They know how to tug our heartstrings. And they use psychology against us. That's why they can program us and even brainwash us if we're not careful. So all he is a poster child, because after that car, now all of a sudden he's into satellites. All kinds of crazy technologies with this one. And now the brain chip. How do you move from a car to a brain chip? He's not a doctor. And he's claiming, oh, this will help anyone who's a quadriplegic or what have you. And, they be able to communicate with their brain and their thoughts to a computer or through a computer. Unbelievable, right? The knowledge used to create these technologies may seem to come from ordinary men and or women because of the history that was written by man, by them, right? They wrote the history books, and the true history they tried to change, which gives credit to these inventors. Oh, yes, he invented this. He's the first man to do this and to do that. All the history that you've read, written in those books that they've programmed us when we were in elementary school and high school and colleges and university, they're all lies. They're all lies. They would never come right out and tell you the real truth. Because the truth then will expose them as liars. So they got to keep on being who their fathers are. Liars. Isn't that what Hamashiach called Satan? Isn't that what he called the Pharisees? He said, your father is the father of lies. You can't do any better than him. You can't come and speak truth. So anything that these people come and speak on the television or whatever social media platform that they're on, believe the opposite. Because they're incapable of speaking truth. All right, let's move on. Many of such famous inventors were only poster children placed in front of these so-called inventions. The true brains behind all of the technology that we have, ranging from their inception until today, are the Nephilim that survived the great flood. So the brains behind it are the Nephilim, because they were taught by their fathers, the fallen angels, who were the watchers, who are currently in prison under the earth. But now, the fallen angels that are with the Satans, the four Satans, they're the ones who are giving them the instructions to give to their children. You understand? They have a network of wickedness. At the same time, we can also say that because these Nephilim have spawned offspring that look like people, these offspring are credited as well. So the ones that are credited are their offspring. And they're the ones who stand before the invention and say, well, I did it. It was because I'm so smart. I'm a genius. When in fact, they're devious and they're wicked. We have to realize that they, the Nephilim, also wrote the history books amongst many other books. And so they gave us a story behind the inventions and why we need such inventions that will make us more advanced, happier, and even fulfilled. That's the reason for advertisements, commercials, to entice you to use their devices, to change what Alahayam has given to us. No longer people are interested in growing their own food. They want to go to a supermarket because they see a commercial of a housewife going to the supermarket and buying everything she needs in a can or plastic or glass container. So she doesn't have to go and do it by hand, which gives her more time to sit down and watch television, to be indoctrinated more, to be programmed more by their commercials. More time to be programmed. That's what they want for us. Less time doing the things that we ought to be doing that our forefathers used to do, which would be to go and work the land and grow our own food. And more time sitting in front of the tube. Back in the days when I was growing up, it was a tube TV, tube television. And it was black and white too. Now you got the flat screens and all these different kind of screens that you can put up. They used and still are using advertisements, which are commercials, social media, and television to show us how we can achieve personal betterment with said devices. This is exceptionally true for today, as the masses are ripe for these lies and deception, and they have successfully programmed many and even brainwashed just as many to believe such lies. So you see, the young people today, they don't care about anything else but technology. You'll rarely find a young person interested in manual labor. One day I was on a ferry, and this young man came to me, asked me for if I had a needle or pin, because he needed to take his out of his phone. I guess that not USB. What do they call that now? It's like the card. Yes, SIM card, out of his phone and replace it with another. And I said, I'm so sorry, but I don't have anything. And I actually hoped I had something because he was so polite. And then all of a sudden we struck up a conversation, right? And he was about, because the conversation we were having was so mature for his age, because I can see that he was very young. He wasn't even 20 yet. And I asked him, like, how do you know all this stuff? Because he was talking about technology and all that kind of business, right? Oh, because he's into technology. He's into that kind of stuff. And anyways, long story short, he then started to talk to me about ChatGPT. He said, look, I have discovered that all I need to do is give the artificial intelligence an idea of what I want, and ChatGPT will work it out for me. Right? It takes about 10 minutes. I proofread it. If I like it, then I pass it on to my boss. And guess what? I have the rest of the day to myself. All right? And he was completely blown away by that. That he can, what would take him maybe days to write, he can produce in 10 minutes and have all this extra time on his hands. And we have a saying back in the day. I don't know if people still say it, but the saying goes, the devil finds things for idle hands to do. So if you're not busy occupying your brain and your hands to do work, then the devil will help you find things to do with those hands and that brain. But he was completely blown away by the fact that he can write a book in a matter of minutes. All he has to do is to give the artificial intelligence the topic, maybe give it a few pointers in the direction in which he wants the book to take, and then you just sit back and let it do it for him. This is the generation that we're living in. This is the generation, folks, where people cannot use their own brains anymore to be creative. They don't want to. They don't even want to use their own hands to write a letter. They want to do everything on the computer or what have you. Now you have the other apps that you Snapchat, chat, or whatever it is. All these forms of social media where people no longer need to do anything except stand before a camera. All right? And that's why we have young people today that are going to be so lost. They're already lost, okay? But when Alahayam brings destruction against this empire that is rising itself up slowly but surely, it's not quite here yet. It's the technology beast empire. Well, it's a beast empire based on technology. And many people are going to give their sovereignty over to this empire. Speaking of these young people that love technology, they don't know what it's like to get some wood and make a fire and cook over this fire. That is unheard of. They don't want to go and do manual labor. That is unheard of. They just want to sit in front of the computer screen for a few minutes per day to make their living. And a lot of them, they have now their TikTok, their influencers or whatnot, and they're making tens of thousands of dollars a month. Doing what? Nothing. Producing nothing of substance. But they just want the money. And it's an easy way to make money by having a YouTube channel, TikTok. Some of them have all three, all of them, all of the above, all the social media platforms. They produce their whatever works they do, whatever videos they make. And this is the way now for them to make a living. They don't want to do any manual labor. They don't want to utilize their brain. They don't want to think. All right? Thankfully, some people are awakening to these tactics and are seeking to live off grid as much as they can, or at least limit their use of technology. There's still a handful of people that say, you know what? I don't like this technology. A handful, not too many. There's a growing trend amongst the millennials to be so dependent on technology that life without it would seem useless and mundane. Because everything, they're completely entertained by technology. You have the games that they play, and this is how they interact with each other, no matter whatever countries they're in. It could be in the same country, city, what have you. It doesn't matter, but they prefer to go online to play a game, an imaginary game. Sorry, it's a game about imaginary things that they're doing, whether it's combat or what have you. And that's why when you sit down with these same young people, they can't speak. They don't know how to carry a conversation. The only conversation that they can speak is when they're online gaming with each other. And some of them are hardcore gamers where they spend 24/7 on the computers. They don't know any other life. I know a woman's son, he was in his 30s, he died in his chair gaming. All he ate for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, pizza and Coca-Cola and potato chips. That was his diet. And 24/7, he is on the computer gaming with his friends. And he was in his 30s and he was living home at his mother. So he didn't have to pay rent. She paid it for him. She supplied the food. She supplied the Wi-Fi. What have you? He never worked a day in his life. Well, I can't say he never, but he wasn't working at the time when he died. And she was so disgusted by him. I know she was disgusted. She didn't even go up and say anything at the funeral. I was at the funeral. Apparently, he was abusive towards her, too. And when I was at the funeral, I was disgusted because his mother was supposed to be a Christian. And those were the days when I was a Christian. Eh? And I'm sitting in the back waiting to hear and see how this funeral is going to go. All his friends came up, and you know what they said about him? He was a wonderful gamer. He gained this sword and this device and that device. Nothing personal about him. All they knew about him is what he did on this game and what he achieved on his game. His achievement in life was what he achieved playing this game. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I was there. Not one prayer, not one not one scripture read, nothing. It was a funeral for a gamer that died with a heart attack, a sudden heart attack at 30 years old. And that was some years ago, That was quite a few years ago. Can you imagine now today? Let's read on. And if this could not get any worse, then comes artificial intelligence, AI, which is replacing a person's need for using their own intelligence and creativity. This is a substantial blow to mankind, as this will cripple anyone's ability to problem solve simple issues and run into AI to find an answer. We will look more at this trend in the next study. And I have a feeling that it may not be the next study because there are some other things I wanted us to look at, and artificial intelligence may have its own study. And let me say this, right? As much as I'm looking at these devilish devices, I'm looking at them, I'm showing them to you, but I'm also going to bring the word of Alahayam in. All right? I'm going to have his word in this study, in all these studies. All right. You can see, I don't know what that word is supposed to be. You can see that these technology devices were made possible with the invention of electricity. Electricity started a snowball rolling down that proverbial mountain. Until now, we have this magnificently enormous snowball ready to collide and clash severely with the creations of Alahayam. All right, they're using their technology to corrupt or destroy the creations of Alahayam. Alahayam did not intend for us to have electricity. It came into the world as a breakthrough invention to solve man's problem of limited natural light. to become the source of energy for artificial light. Because with artificial light, you can stay up longer. You can stay up all night. That was the first thing. He created the sunlight for us to rise up and to do our work in, and nighttime for us to sleep. But it didn't stop there. No, it did not. Because if you notice, all technology today is ran by some form of an electrical current. Without electricity, the devil's devices will not work, as they will be rendered useless. Even cars today that once depended only on gasoline and a hand crank to start them, until batteries were introduced, are now solely dependent on computers that are dependent on an electrical charge from a battery. The good news is that technology will be wiped off the face of the earth by seal number 6, the great earthquake. So let's take a look at that. Revelation chapter 6, verse 12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heavens departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So they created their underground dens, which they have currently today, and they ran to their dens to hide from the face of Alahayam and the Lamb, because the dome above us is going to roll back like a scroll and expose the heavens above the dome. And not only the heavens, but it's going to expose Alahayam Yahawah sitting on his throne. And he's coming with great wrath against these same kings of the earth, the leaders, the what have you, the rich men, the chief captains, coming against them, because they're the ones that are bringing about the corruption on the earth. They are the NWO, Beast Empire number 7. And this Beast Empire number 7, the NWO, the New World Order, is going to be a technology-based empire. It's going to be ran solely on technology. And when this earthquake comes, it's going to destroy all of their technology, including electricity. There'll be no more electricity, no more cars, no more trains, no more planes, nothing. Back to horse and cart, chariots, and ships on the sea. Alahayam is going to wipe out technology. And Gadriel, who is the Satan that is going to be the evil powers behind this beast empire, he's going to be ousted and benched until Alahayam cast him into the bottomless pit. He's the one coming back with Gog and Magog. All right, he's the one that's going to be cast into the pit for 1,000 years and then released. If you really think about it, you will soon realize that with the invention of electricity, then came the first generation inventions that have spawned the technology that we have today. So let us review these first generation items, the years in which they were invented, and by whom they were invented by in chronological order. So invented, they're the poster children. All right? Number one, electricity was said to be discovered by Benjamin Franklin, who flew a kite with a metal key during a thunderstorm around 1700. By the ending of the 19th century, electricity became available in the home. Thomas Edison created the first light bulb in 1879. Now we have the first camera was created by Joseph, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, but Nicephore Nipsey or Nipes, whatever, in 1816 called a heliograph. But it was Louis Daguerre in 1839 who invented the camera, which is much closer to what we use today, called the daguerreotype. And I think it's those cameras that, it looks like a big black box, like an accordion, and they put the cloth over their heads and they have the flash in their hands. That is that camera. All right? Now, the first computer was invented by Charles Babbage between 1833 and 1871. The first telephone was invented in 1849 by an Italian called Antonio Meucci. Again, later, a Frenchman named Bourseul, these names, Bourseul, also devised a telephone in 1854. But it wasn't until 1876 that Alexander Graham Bell won the first U.S. patent for this device. Therefore, the credit would go to him. Now, the first radio was invented by Marconi in December 12, 1901, using radio waves. Now, the first television was invented in September 7, 1927, by Philo Farnsworth. The television was used as a mass medium for advertising, entertainment, news, and sports. So even back then, they had an agenda, right, for the purpose of television. Keep the masses entertained. Now we have the internet. Was around since 1965 when Lawrence Roberts made two computers talk to each other. However, January 1st became I did not put the year in, I'm so sorry. January 1st became the official birthday of this device. Not one person made not one person invented the internet. It was, in fact, a number of scientists and engineers who brought their research together to create the ARPANET, which means Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. And I'm here trying to find, because I did write notes to myself concerning, there was a year. Okay, here it is. So it was the first television, and this one was called the Internet. Let's see, January 1st, 1983. All right, I forgot to put the year in. January 1st, 1983. Now, without having to go into, and before I start reading the paragraph, now do you see how years went by before the next invention came around? You see that? You see that? That's not happening today. What's happening today? You go to sleep tonight, you wake up tomorrow, an invention. Right? And then the day after that. And the day after that. These inventions now that they're coming up with are coming fast and furious. And yes, they're going to claim, oh, yes, that's because we have artificial intelligence helping us now. All right? But it's not because of artificial intelligence. It's because their devils are rolling out the inventions faster and faster because they're getting the world ready for the rise of the NWO Beast Empire number 7. And with that, they also have to bring the people along with them through the programming and brainwashing that that they have the brainwashing and the programming that they're using in order to get the masses on the earth to go along with these inventions. All right? People got to buy it. And when I say buy, I'm not talking about only purchasing with money, but they have to believe in these inventions. And they have to trust that these inventions are here for their betterment. And the more people fall in love with their technology, the more control now they have over these people. All right? So now inventions are coming closer and closer together. It's almost every day there's something new that they're creating. And back in the day, it was like every 10 years, something new would come out. What have you? Just look at the years here. Let's go back. We look at 1700. And then from there, we have the first light bulb in 1879. That's 100 years, 100 plus years later. And then we have the camera, which is another 50 years or so. 50, 60, 70 years later. Depending on which one you look at, whether it was the first one by Joseph or the other one by Louis. And then the first computer, right? Between 1833 to 1871. So there are a lot of years between these inventions. Because back in those days, people were normal people like you and I. And they weren't brainwashed. They were now being programmed, but they weren't brainwashed yet. All right, let's read it. Without having to go into depth regarding these earlier invented devices, all that we need to know is that these inventions were later refined to be the technology that we currently use, like the cell phone. Out went the landline after this invention became popular worldwide. Remember when everyone had a dial-up, if you call it a rotary telephone? I had a cord. I had a cord. And and then the cords got longer, and then you were able to put them on the wall, mount them on the wall, and then the cord used to be so long you can go into another room with it. And then after that, they had the cordless telephone. Well, the base was on a cord, but then the handle was cordless. All right. I know you have the cell phone. I know because you have the cell phone, people don't have a need for a landline. Computers became portable, hence the laptops and tablets. So the first computer was as big as a house. I'm not joking, they were humongous. But they brought them down in size, and now everything now is portable. Whether it's a computer or a laptop. I remember my first computer, it was big, it was huge. It was one of those big with the big screen, and it's almost the back of it was extended so far away from the screen, and then you had the um, the hard drive, right? And it was all connected with wires. All right, I remember those days. Access to the internet is also wireless today. When back in the day it was dial-up internet using a landline telephone. I remember that. You had to the telephone will dial up the internet and it will make this that noise, right? And you had to wait a few minutes for a connection to be made because the computer was calling the wherever it was calling in order for us to get on the internet. I remember that. That's back in the early 90s. All right. Even let me think here for a second. Yeah, back in the early 90s when when I encountered my first computer. And it was a dial up computer. Well, dial up, sorry, internet. All right. Next came Wi Fi, which enabled us to have easy access to the internet anywhere we go, which has free Wi Fi to be hooked up or the use of data on our cell phones. So even with Wi Fi was a box with a cord that was attached to the computer. Everything had wires. And then came the wireless Wi Fi, where you can get rid of those cords now. All right? And then you get the cell phones now had data where you can go online on the internet. And then it just started growing from there. Now you have hotspots where you can log in to the internet anywhere you go. We didn't have that in my day. When I was growing up, we had none of this. And we were fine. Nothing happened to us. We were happier. Life was simple and not as corrupt as it is today. Now you have children, all these children now they have the tablets and the cell phones, and they have easy access to the internet and easy access to programming and wickedness. And parents put them in the hands of their children because they think with a cell phone, their child is going to be safe. If something happens, they can call me immediately. Well, where is your child? Where are you sending your child that needs to have a cell phone in case of an emergency? If the child is going to school, the school has an office. The school has a teacher, the child has a teacher. If something happens, the teacher goes to the office and make a call to the parent. But parents make a lot of foolish excuses in order to put these devices in the hands of their children. I went to school. We didn't have a cell phone when I was going to school. If there was a problem, go to the office and ask the headmistress for a call, and you call your parent. In fact, you are not even responsible for you. It's the teacher that would call the parent and say, hey, your child is sick. Can you please come and pick her up? But parents today, they put a cell phone in the hands of their children and they're using it for all kind of wickedness because they now have free access to corruption. You have the TikTok, they're watching Facebook pages, and they spend more time looking down. They don't even look up anymore. They don't even look around them anymore. They're too absorbed with this entertainment, with these devices. And this is the fault of the parents. All right. I know a lot of parents, they give their children these devices. And even when they come home now, forget about the phone, they now have a tablet. And they go and lock themselves away in their bedrooms. You don't know what they're watching. You don't know what program is programming them. And then your child comes out, you ask them to do one or two things and they blow up. They get angry. Even to the point they want to kill you. Because they're in the bedroom being programmed to hate you. And you think that you're being a good parent by offering them an expensive device. And they shutting themselves away. They don't even come out and talk to you. They don't do anything in the house. You do it all for them because you think you're being a good parent. But that's the definition of being a foolish parent. All right. Children need to sit down and talk to their parents in order for the children to learn the truth. Hopefully the parents know the truth. But the parents are allowing these devices to train up their children. And that's why the children are wicked. And they're getting involved in things that they're not supposed to be getting involved in. Getting into relationships when they are not ready to be in a relationship. You need to you need to mature first. Get something of some sort of education. Unbelievable, right? And the parents can't say anything to them because there has never been really a relationship, because they spend so much time apart. Parents on their devices, the children on their devices, they sit down, they eat at the table, the same table, sometimes not. Right? But they're on their devices. They don't talk. They have no conversations. And so the children, they learn what they learn from the internet and social media, whatever the social media is out there telling them to do. What they see other people doing that entices them to do as well. It's the parents' fault, not the children. Children can't buy anything. The parents are the ones who buy them. Because the children aren't working, the parents are working. And they're taking their hard-earned money and putting corruption in the hands of their children and then complaining afterwards. All right, let's move on. Now we can have access to their information, which is really indoctrination on the go. So they're making sure that it's easy. We have easy access to their information. I know you'll say, well, look at you, Hadassah. You're using their devices, but what am I using the devices for? I'm using it for good. To bring the word of Alahayam to the ears of his people. I'm not here to corrupt anyone. I'm here to destroy the lies and the corruption that has been placed upon our people. That's what I'm using their devices for. Let's read on. These items were not created for our amusement, entertainment, or betterment, but they were the stepping stones to the most nefarious inventions since before the flood. They were all created for one thing: control, mind control. And then, of course, to control you totally. Whether we want to believe this or not is besides the point. A lot of people think, oh, technology gives us more freedom. Freedom for what? To do what? To spend more time on the internet? To spend more time watching a TikTok show? TikTok video? All technology was created with one thing in mind: to control through brainwashing. Enough to persuade a person to give up their rights as a human being, then to be controlled entirely with the use of these same devices. These same devices that people love are the same devices that they use to watch us. And they listen. And they use something called an algorithm. And that's why if you're on the telephone talking to a friend about pineapples, all of a sudden when you go online, all these different videos and what have you will come up about pineapples. Because the algorithm, their artificial intelligence, is listening to you. And some people might think, oh, that is so smart. All right. You sit there and think that this is smart. When the NWO Beast Empire, in fact, we, the Southern Kingdom, will not be here when this empire rises up. All right? But the Beast Empire, this is how they're going to be able to control the whole world with these devices. All right. This will come to pass when the beast empire, number 7, the new world order. I think I spelled that wrong. It's supposed to be NWO. Rises up to take dominion over the earth. Now, there is no real beginning to these inventions, but rather we will jump right in to look at what they're using that are threatening the very existence of mankind today. Thankfully, we have Alahayam Yahawah who is keeping watch, who will interrupt their plans or restrict their plans to prevent this from ever happening. So they can't wipe us off the face of the earth. They can't have all Nephilim bloodline on this earth and none of Alahayam's bloodline, the one that he created. Nah, Alahayam will not permit that. Why is he allowing them, meaning Alahayam, to do these things in the first place? Because he is using them, meaning the Nephilim, the fallen angels, the Satans, what have you, to sift us like wheat. We have to choose who we will serve, who we will obey, and who we will worship. So if you love technology, guess who you're going to worship? The gods of technology. And you're going to serve them too. And you're going to be obedient to them. When they say jump, you're going to ask, how high do you want me to jump, sir? Many people today are enthralled by the inventions of the Nephilim. So much so they despise anything else. Some people, you can't tell them technology is wickedness. That it leads people, or it corrupts the minds and the hearts of people. They're not going to believe that. They think that technology is the best thing next to sliced bread. That this world would not be as it was, meaning advanced, without technology. They think technology is making us advance, when in fact it's doing the opposite. To let people know what life will once again be returned to. Sorry. Let me read that again. Many people today are enthralled by the inventions of the Nephilim, so much so they despise anything less. To let people know that life will once again be returned to a simple, peaceful life without technology will be impossible to bear. Imagine a life with no electricity. There goes your nighttime jobs that people love to do. They like to do night duty because there's no electricity. All right? All right. So now you can't travel around by airplane, bus, cars, trains, what have you. You either have to walk or use a horse or a cart, a donkey in a cart, what have you. That is the mode of transportation. Chariots, even. That is going to be the mode of transportation, and ships as well. And we know this when you go to the book of Revelation, you see what they're going to be using: ships. They're going to be using chariots. Why is that? Because there's no more technology. The technology is finished. And with it goes everything that these wicked creatures created. And a lot of people, they're going to faint. They're going to their hearts are going to stop because there's no more technology. They don't know how to wash clothes by hand. I grew up washing clothes by hand. People don't know how to wash clothes by hand. They grew up seeing a washing machine doing it for them. I grew up watching my auntie grating coconut and my grandma grating coconut using a grater. People today, you have the devices, whether it's a blender or what have you, to blend the coconut. I'm just using this as an example. You're not used to doing things by hand or like manually. Everything comes in a package now. Go in a supermarket, everything you need and want is in the supermarket. In some supermarkets, you even have a drugstore. You even have places where you can buy clothing. It's supposed to be a supermarket. One-stop shop. Post office is in there too. But the world that is coming back is a world where all of that is done. No more supermarkets. You want food, you got to grow it. And you got to cook it from scratch, as the saying goes. You got to start with boiling water if you want to get some rice or potatoes or what have you. And a lot of people don't know how to cook. All right. Many people are brainwashed enough to have great love for technology and cannot see themselves living without it, despite the wickedness that they're witnessing with the use of these devices. Oh, yeah, they'll say, well, it's just that people are using it for wickedness, but it can be used for good. But you're seeing more wickedness being done than you see good. You understand the point? And that's not a point of view anyway. The purpose of these devices are there to corrupt the hearts and minds of people, to brainwash them, to program them if they can't brainwash them, so that they will believe a lie and they will submit to the commands and demands of the wicked. They figure that as long as the wickedness is not on their doorsteps, then all is well with technology. But now these wicked devices have entered into our homes and our lives, and they are disrupting the roles of family members through strong demonic influence. How can we then deny their evil intentions? Families aren't families anymore. We used to sit down around the table and talk about your day. If you're too young, you listen and you hear mama and papa talking together. All right? But gone are those days. Everybody's sitting at the table and they got a device in their hand. So now there's no communication. If there's no communication, there's no relationship. And you find that the young people now that are growing up with these devices in their hands, they are unruly and disrespectful and self-entitled. And if they don't get what they want, they will kill their own parents. It has been happening. You need to take those devices out of your children's hand. In fact, if you have a child, don't give them anything. But you feel because you are dependent on the device, you are training up your child to be dependent on the device as well. That is programming. Remember what I said in part 1 of this study? It starts with the grandparents, then the parents, and then it filters down to the children. They have done their job well, haven't they? I'm so glad I don't have any children. With all this wickedness that's on this earth, I am so happy. And if you don't have any children, give praises to the Most High. There will come a time, if we remain faithful to Him, He will allow us to have children again. And the children that we will bear will not have to deal with this wickedness. They'll be born in holiness and in righteousness with no sin nature. Give praises to the Most High that you don't have any children. All these things are here to corrupt. And imagine if you want to live a wholesome life, you want to live in holiness and in righteousness, and you have children. And this has been the issue with a lot of people, right? I know I'm kind of I have to get on to the lesson. Well, yeah, well, this is still part of the lesson. But I just want to say this quickly. I know people that started out in Christianity and they got married, have children, and then they discovered their true identity, right? Now, the problem is, and what has been happening is one of the couple, whether it's the husband or the wife, is awakened. Then it brings about problems in the marriage. All right, let's say both parents, husband and wife, are awakened and they start to serve Alahayam. Now you have children, and your children are at an age where they want to believe what they want to believe without mommy and daddy telling me what to believe. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with a child that is on a different level than you are? And this is what I've seen happening with a lot of people. They have been awakened, but their children were not. So now there's conflict. Or they were awakened, but their spouse was not, and their children were not. So now either they continue on with the wife or husband and children, or they have to separate themselves. And it always comes down to a separation. Because darkness and light cannot go together. And either you will give up Alahayam Yahawah in order to keep the peace, or you're just going to have to go. That's what I'm saying. If you don't have any children, if you're not married, give praises to the Most High that you're not married. If you don't have any children, praise Him even more. Because I know some people, before they came into the knowledge, they went and they have children outside of marriage. But if you have none of the above, you give praises like you've never given praises before. Because you're blessed. I'm watching all my peers, all the people that I grew up with, family members, what have you, going through this heartache, this heartbreak. And all I can do is give praises to the Most High. Some of them live in fear because they don't know what's going to become of their children. Sometimes the children turn away from them. They don't want anything to do with them. We have a saying, bend the tree when it's young. But they wait until the tree is old. It's no longer a sapling. It's an old tree, and you're trying to bend it and keep it straight, make it straight. I think that's the saying, right? I might be. It's been a while since I used that saying. But give praises because you are single with no children. There will be a time and a place for that. After we are regathered, He will cause us to multiply greatly, and there'll be no sicknesses, no pain, no nothing. All right. You cannot fall in love with their technology, although yes, we use them now. We use them for now, as this is all part of the slavery that the whole earth is under. But once we are set free completely, meaning rid of these devil devices and the devils along with them, that means when we're regathered, will we accept such freedom? Well, if you are regathered, then it means you have accepted the freedom from these devices. And you're not even going to remember them either. He's going to remove the memory of these devices. But or crave the leeks and cucumbers of Matzarayam, time will tell, that's for sure, and the sheep will be separated from the goats. Now, the only people that will have or will feel somewhat the craving for what they once had in the lands when they were living in will be the northern kingdom, not the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom will be taken up and will be gone suddenly, right? But the northern kingdom, they're going to have to go into the wilderness for their second exodus. And they're going to be, some of them, a few of them, that are going to be rebels. They're the ones that are going to crave the leeks and the cucumbers of the land of bondage that they were once living in. And they're going to be living in fear for their lives because they're going to see all the destruction happening around them. Because remember, the northern kingdom, they're going to be living through up to the fifth trumpet. So they're going to see the horrors of these judgments. But Alahayam purposely has done it this way, or will do it this way, because it will help to sift out the weaklings, the rebels from amongst the northern kingdom and cause them to run the other way. Now we will launch into the technologies that are currently on the earth and research their purposes, simply for our understanding of what we are really up against. This study is intended to inform and to teach what we are really up against, with the hope that we can make the informed decision to worship only Alahayam Yahawah, to place our love upon Him and not on the things of this world. He is our only hope for survival and to make it into His kingdom. Any other way or effort on our part will only cause us to become desolate and destroyed. Please learn and understand the real truth behind all technology. Don't let your heart break over this garbage, guys. See it for what it really is. They were not created by Alahayam Yahawah. He did not give man the knowledge, as some of our foolish brethren would say, that Alahayam give man the knowledge to create these things. No, he did not. The knowledge came from the Nephilim. All right, let's start. Geoengineering. Now, what is geoengineering? Geoengineering or climate engineering refers to a set of emerging technologies that could manipulate the environment and partially offset some of the impacts of the change in the climate. And that this is their definition. But notice they say manipulate the environment, meaning the atmosphere. Let's get started with what they're using to manipulate the atmosphere. I'm sure if you go outside at any point of time, on any day, you may come across the skies looking like this, with all these lines crisscrossing over your head. Now, some people believe that these are contrails, but people are not doing their research to be informed with the correct information. Contrails do not look like this. All right, you will have to have many different planes flying all at the same time, crisscrossing each other to create this effect if it was supposed to be contrails. And you got to know what contrails are. It's the exhaust from an airplane. And it's the heat from the airplane, and because of the high altitude that create, and which is colder up there, and it creates the exhaust. But it dissipates within a minute or two. But these trails, these chemical, they're called chemtrails, they don't dissipate immediately. So let's read. About 14 to 15 years ago, these clouds on the left were brought to my attention one day when a friend pointed them out to me. He then told me what they were, and that was the time I took to look deeply into these new types of quote-unquote clouds. They're not clouds, but I call them quote-unquote clouds. Back in those days, you were able to find independent studies done on these streaks in the sky, but now that information is long gone. We are told that these streaks are created to cool the earth and to prevent these extreme weather changes, yet the opposite has happened. And you know how I know that they're lying? When I started noticing these streaks more and more, they were not as frequent as they are today. But one, it was the winter time. Outside it was freezing. I was in Canada and I went for a walk. And as I happened to look up, because the Spirit always shows me things, He said, look up. And when I looked up, I saw these trails, these chemtrails. And He said to me, they did not say that they are using these streaks to cool the earth. And yet the earth is cold. Yet here in Canada, it's freezing. It's wintertime. Why are they spraying the sky? And that made me even more curious. I had to go and dig deeper. That's when I started digging even deeper into this phenomenon, this man-made phenomenon. They're not doing it to cool the earth. If they were, they would do it in a country that is hot, like Australia, because Australia's climate is different from ours. It's the direct opposite. So when it is winter in Canada, it is summer in Australia. That's why December in Australia is their summertime. But no, they're doing it over Canada, where it is freezing. So that's how I knew that these people are lying to us. You will notice that these streaks will appear even in the winter time. So this reason of cooling the earth cannot be true. How can you cool the earth when the upper atmosphere is already cool? And if the earth is experiencing wintertime, the earth is cold. So you are not helping the earth to be cool by spraying this thing. There's something else going on. Then the fact that worse weather is occurring worldwide now, since these streaks began to appear, is what is leading us to understand, the ones that are awakened, to know that there's something nefarious about these streaks. Every time I see the streaks here, I see them here too in Egypt. They're everywhere. Sometimes they spray at night and you wake up in the morning, you see the cloud mass. And when that happens, watch out. You got a windstorm coming in a day or two. Or rain. That's why it's been flooding. I don't know if it still is, but it was flooding over there in Saudi Arabia. A desert. So what is the real truth behind these fake clouds? If you look carefully when the sky is looking normally blue with white puffy clouds, the ones that Alahayam created, or no clouds, because sometimes the sky doesn't have any clouds, you will notice these lines appearing as if they were contrails. If you look closer at the source of where these quote-unquote clouds are coming from, you will notice these white airplanes like the size of a Boeing 747. They're huge. I know they're huge because I can see them. All right? I can see them with my naked eye. And if the sky is already have the white streaks in there and they're spraying more, because they're white, you can hardly see them, but you can hear them because they have very loud engines. Sometimes you hear them and you don't see them. And that's why they're white, so that they can blend with the streaks in the sky, with the clouds. These airplanes do not have markings, therefore no identification as to who they belong to. Yet, at the same time, they're not airplanes, but drones that look like airplanes. Now, in the beginning, back in the day, like I said, 14, 15 years ago, they may have started before that. They used to use airplanes and real pilots. I remember when I did my study, I remember finding this out. And what they would do, they would hire people that were from the military or what have you that have experience flying airplanes. And they used to pay them a lot of money. But these people were sworn to secrecy. And if they were from America, they will send them to Norway. I'm just using this as an example. They will send them someplace far away, like Norway or where have you, to spray or to work over there, to spray the sky over there. They would never employ them in the same country that they were from. And that way, secrecy remained. And they used to move them around from place to place, but they used to pay them so much money that they would be more than happy to keep their mouths closed, these pilots. And heaven forbid, if they did speak about it, and there was one person who spoke about it, he's probably dead now. That's how we found out about it. He had a conscience because he said, why are they so secretive about spraying these chemicals? And although they blurred out his face and what have you, they would have most likely found out who he is, who he was. He was like a whistleblower. And that's how we found out that the pilots could not speak. They couldn't even tell their own wives where they were going and what they were doing. All the wives knew is that this is a secret assignment. And they were told that if you speak, you'll be shot. So, of course, they were afraid. And not only them, but their family members too. Wife and children. You'll kill them off. And make it look like a murder-suicide. That's what these devils do. Make them look like the man was depressed or the wife, what have you, and they had problems. They can create what kind of narrative? Any kind of narrative to cover up their evil wickedness. But the man said that he was threatened. They were threatened that if they speak, that would be off with their heads. All right? So these are not airplanes, but drones that look like airplanes. So after I guess they were having issues with the pilots, because I'm sure they had some sort of conscience when they realized what they were spraying, that it became difficult for them to hire pilots. So they got the drones. Then the drones came in. Although you still need someone to fly the drone, but the people don't even need to know what drones they're flying. They just know that they're flying this drone. I don't know how it works. All right? But a drone needs someone to control it from the ground. All right? It doesn't fly by itself. It flies by itself in the air, but it needs someone on the ground to control, to manage the controls. All right. What looks like contrails are actually chemtrails or chemical trails that consist of barium, aluminum, and strontium nanoparticles. These nanoparticles, which are metals, wrap the earth in a metallic-like blanket, trapping the heat from the sun, the opposite of what the wicked scientists claimed. But before we carry on, know this. No one, either a government agency or private institution, has ever claimed the ownership of these drones spraying chemicals in our atmosphere. No one. Why are they spraying chemtrails in our skies? These chemtrails are seen all over countries. Are seen over all countries and islands today. And they spray several times a day. Notice after they spray, there will be freaky weather not too long afterwards. This is because the metallic blanket is being used for, weather modification and manipulation. Remember they said that? They did not say that in their definition, to manipulate the environment. And that's exactly what they use it for. And these are the planes here. This is what they look like. You see, they almost look like they're invisible because of what they painted them with. Right? And that's because all this, you see, it looks like it's like they have sprayed before. So they're almost blending with clouds. The light clouds that you see there, that's because they were spraying before and it dissipated, right? So they look like this, and then they start to spread. It becomes like a line. But if you notice how it's spreading, they start to spread out until it becomes a thin veil of metallic nanoparticles that your eyes can't see. All right? These are the planes here. I spraying this chemical. And this is not contrails. I should have put an example of contrail. But contrail, at this distance here, you'll start to see the smoke disappearing, the exhaust disappearing, or the contrail disappearing, right? But you would not see a long trail of these streaks and think that they are contrails. No way. These are not contrails. These are chemical trails. Now, in the next slide, I will explain more about these actions done to the weather. There's a clear difference between contrails and chemtrails. Contrails dissipates within minutes, while these chemtrails spread and spread until they seem to disappear. But not so. Eventually, these chemicals will either drop to the earth, meaning the nanoparticles will drop to the earth, or the rain will bring them down. Hence the reason why the skies have to be sprayed often. So to keep that metallic blanket, to keep the earth, to keep that metallic blanket over the earth, they have to spray often. All right? When these nanoparticles seep into the earth, because what goes up must come down, and when it comes down, it's going into the earth, and especially if it's coming down with the water, with the rain, it seeps into the soil, right? They destroy the microorganisms in the soils, rendering the soils too acidic for proper crops growth, or none at all. And I remember back in the day when I was doing my research, there were scientists that were testing the soils and realizing that the microorganisms that should be there were no longer there. Plus, they realized that the soil was becoming too acidic for the plants to grow properly or to grow at all. And this all promotes famine, okay? It's all promoting famine, because if the crops aren't growing, then there's no food, right? Trees, brushes, and bushes absorb these chemicals through their roots and taken up throughout the trees and the bushes and the brushes, turning them into flammable tinder. Hence the crazy, unstoppable wildfires and fire tornadoes formed from these insanely high temperature fires. So back in the day, we know that forest fires, sometimes the rangers will set fire. It's a controlled fire to burn a forest. Why? Because it stimulates the soil, it stimulates the forest. It doesn't burn down the trees, because green trees, they don't burn. Right? But what has been happening, the trees now, today, they're burning internally because the roots of the trees are taking up the water that has been contaminated with these part, nanoparticles of, not, I'm saying that incorrectly, right? Nor nanoparticles, oh my goodness, nanoparticles of the aluminum, barium, and strontium, right? They're being taken up from the root, and the root system, just like people, we have veins that the blood passes through, the water passes through the trees and it goes to the leaves and what have you. So now these trees have layers upon layers of these nanoparticles internally, that when a fire starts, these trees are combusting from the inside and not the outside because of these nanoparticles. They are highly flammable. All right? And along with that, everything is burning at such a high temperature, is creating something called a fire tornado. All right? That hasn't happened before. A forest fire, the firemen can go in and put it out. But now the fires are burning so hot with such high temperatures that the firemen can't even get close. And on top of that, the fires, they move like a tsunami, or they move like, when like a avalanche. It can travel very quickly, especially if it turned into a tornado, a fire tornado. Many of firemen got killed because of these fires. They're burning too hot because, again, of these nanoparticles. All right? A forest fire is good for trees as they hardly burn and it replenishes the soil, but the trees are burning internally because of the heavy metals taken up by the trees. None of this is due to the changes in the weather as they are claiming is okay, but because of what is sprayed over our heads, bringing about the changes in the weather. Another big lie being told to the masses. So they are attributing the forest fires, the increase of the temperature, the crazy weather changes to the change in the climate. All right, now I put that backwards because it has become like a religion on this earth now. All right, but it is not because of us living our lives on this earth and farming and eating food that is grown in the soil that is creating the changes in the weather. It is because of what they are doing overhead that is bringing about these changes, along with everything else that they're doing. And I'll show you. All right, let's move on to the next slide. HAARP means High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. What is HAARP? Do not be deceived. They give us explanations for these evil devices that are now located in every major country on this earth. According to their explanation, HAARP is a scientific facility for studying the ionosphere. The ionosphere is the part of the Earth's atmosphere in which the ionization of atmospheric gases affects the propagation, which means the spreading and the increasing of radio waves, which extends from about 13 miles, which is 50 kilometers, to the exosphere, and which is contiguous, meaning in actual contact with the upper portion of the mesosphere and the thermosphere. And this is according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So if you look on the left here, you see these poles with rods and what have you. This is called HAARP. This is what they use to manipulate and to control the weather, modify the weather using the chemicals, the chemtrails. Because the chemtrails are nanoparticles, metallic nanoparticles, they're able to use this device to manipulate the weather by attacking the ionosphere. Let's look at where the ionosphere is. We start the lowest level of our atmosphere is called the troposphere. That's where we have the thunderstorms. All right? I had the measurements here, but I kind of cut them off by accident. Then you have the stratosphere, and that's where the ozone layer ends. And that's the area where the airplanes fly, the stratosphere. Then above that, we have the mesosphere. They have here like these, I think these are supposed to be, what do you call them now? Those rocks that come from, they claim from space or what have you. Meteorites, yes, meteorites. Oh my goodness. And then above the mesosphere, we have the ionosphere. And that's where you have the ionization of atmospheric gases. All right? And that's where the radio waves here are spread. So this is the layer that they manipulate to create here the weather. Don't worry about the fact that this is the thermosphere and this is supposed to be a spaceship, or not spaceship, sorry, a satellite, right? This is all utter nonsense. If you ever look at a picture of their satellite, it's made out of foil and cardboard. There's no such thing in our atmosphere, all right? No such thing hovering in the atmosphere. This is all made up stuff. Just like astronauts can't go to space because there's no space to go to, there's none of these up there. No satellites. All the satellites that you see is on the earth. It's the Nephilim technology that is on the earth. All right. So this is the area here, the ionosphere, that they manipulate. So imagine a metallic blanket that they can move and manipulate and stir up weird weather changes. That's why some places you see that normally would not have snow would have snow. Places are having droughts. While the other half of the earth have floods, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes. This is what they can use, they can do with this technology here, HAARP. The superstorms that you see are happening, the super tornadoes that you see are happening is not because of the weather changes, it's because of this technology. At one point in time, when I was doing my research, they were calling it weather warfare, where they were going to use this as a way to war against another country, like by sending, whatever freaky weather they want to send. But, whatever. But it's not weather warfare against, like one country against another. It's against us. Because they want to convince us that the weather is changing. And it's changing because of what we are doing. We're eating meat and we're eating farm-grown foods, and it's creating a problem with the atmosphere when it is this. Do not be deceived. And that's why they want us to eat bugs and worms. I'm going to do a study on that. I'm going to show you what they want us to eat. All right? They're the ones that are creating this problem. I'm sure your next question would be, why are they studying the ionosphere? Because that's what they claim they're doing with this piece of machinery here, right? It isn't a study in a way to benefit mankind, but it is a study to manipulate and control the weather all over the world. And that's why they have them in all these major countries. The best way in which I can explain it, because the metallic blanket, due to the nanoparticles sprayed in the skies, they are able to use HAARP to manipulate the ionosphere to trigger earthquakes, volcanoes, super hurricanes, super tornadoes, floodings, snow where there has never been snow before, droughts, hailstorms, aurora borealis, and many other strange weather and atmospheric events. This is bringing about the weird weather that we're having. The extremely high temperatures in certain countries, floodings, that's bringing about mudslides and all kind of problems. And then they're claiming it's because of us. Do not be deceived. These devils that are behind all these technologies are using psychology against us, a technique called the problem reaction solution. The Nephilim wants to convince us that there is a problem with the climate because of what we are doing, like farming and eating farm food, farm grown food, which we have been doing for generations without any issues until now. They have to create extreme weather changes, so much so that people will cry out to them for a solution. If they offer a solution when there is no problem, then their ideas will be rejected. To ensure the success of their plans, they have to make the problem a big one of the climate is changing for the worse, with death and destruction on our doorsteps. So that's another thing. The weather changes are so terrible that the floodings are killing people. The fires are destroying homes and people. The earthquakes, the tornadoes, killing people, destroying homes and businesses and what have you. So now people be like, what's going on? It was never like this 10 years ago. And then they come with this nonsense about the change in the climate that is causing this, due to the gases released by cows. Can you imagine? When we had cows for generations and it never happened before, it's only when this technology came on the scene that suddenly now we have all this crazy weather. But because people now are programmed and brainwashed, that they will believe this lie. And now they have the actors and the actresses and actually the entertainers parroting the same garbage. It is because of what we're eating and the farming that is bringing about the crisis with the climate. So if we help the earth, then things can go back to normal. But we just need to change what we eat. We need to stop eating meat from a cow, but instead we can create meat in a lab using one cell from the cow, and create beef. Same thing with chicken. So instead of eating natural meat, you're eating chemicals that look like beef. I may even taste like beef. If you really, really want to help the earth, you can eat mealworms. That is high in protein. You can eat grasshoppers. It's also high in protein. We can mill them to make it like butter, meaning the mealworms. Or dry them and make them into a flour. And it bakes just like a cake. I watched a video on that. And people actually would consider eating this garbage because they are brainwashed. And they think that We, the people that have been living here on this earth for generations, are destroying the earth. When it's not us, it's them. But they make themselves to be like the heroes, to bring result, to help the earth. That's when you sit and you listen to Hell's Gate guy and believe the lies that coming out of his lying mouth. Not one truth comes out of him. If truth came out of him, he would drop dead. He's just like his father, the devil. Let's read on. To ensure the success of their plans, they have to make the problem a big one of the climate. I read that already, but I'll read it again. The climate is changing for the worse with death and destruction on our doorsteps. This way, we will be convinced that there is a real problem. And every solution they will offer to make the climate right will be accepted readily by us, even to the point of losing our rights to live in the way we once lived. They don't want us to drive our cars anymore. They don't want us to take the buses anymore. They want us to live in 15-minute cities because it will help the earth. Suddenly now the earth is the object of our worship. That's what they want us to do. They want to switch the gears now to create another form of worship that is readily acceptable because we can see the effects of the weather changing before our eyes. And people don't even know that this is what it's going to come down to. Unbelievable, right? Peace in the storm. Mark chapter 4, verse 37. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on the pillow, speaking of Yahawah Hamashiach. And they awake him and say unto him, Adawan, do you not care that we are perishing? And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said one to another, What manner of man is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? Now this was in the beginning when he started to perform his miracles. But the first thing he said to them is, Why are you so afraid? Where's your faith? How is it that you know that I am Adawan and I'm in the ship with you sleeping and you are fearful that you're going to die? Even if the water is coming in the ship and filling up the ship, you can't die because I'm in here. I'm in the ship with you. You can't die. And this is how we are today. We claim that we worship Alahayam Yahawah, that we are in his presence. And yet when things begin to happen, you become fearful and you submit to the enemy. So that means that you don't believe him. You don't have any faith. And I included this scripture because in looking at these things that I'm showing you, I'm not showing them to bring fear to your heart, but rather for your faith to grow and blossom like never before. Because as the darkness is increasing on the earth, so is the glory. And that just simply means the glory is going to increase in us. And that simply means that our redemption is drawing near and near until we're taken up. So these studies that I'm showing you is not to bring fear to your heart. But it is for you now to recognize that, these devils are up to no good. So that means that my regathering is near. You see, they can't destroy the earth, and they certainly can't destroy us. But what they can do is to bring so much fear that we lack faith and we miss the chariots. We miss the chariots because we lack the faith. We lack the faith to believe in Alahayam, that He's more than able to take care of us, even in the midst of the storm. There's a storm in this world right now. It's a spiritual storm. And it's uprooting those who are weak. If you have no faith, or even if your faith is superficial, it's going to uproot you. And Alahayam says, with the storm, your roots are supposed to go deeper and become stronger so that you bend with the wind, but you don't break. You bounce right back up because of faith. He is with us. How can you believe that He is with us and yet you are fearful? Then you're being a hypocrite. And you're not being truthful, because as long as you are fearful, it means that you don't believe Him and He's not with you. How can He be with you when you are living in fear of your life? You're living in fear because of these creatures. These creatures have to submit to Him and us if we are walking in the light. They're more afraid of us than they let on. In fact, they don't let on that they're afraid of us. So they try to do their worst to make their power seem so strong and powerful, to bring fear to our hearts, because once fear creeps in, then faith has to step out. And now we are crippled by that fear. And then they'll start introducing ideas so that you can feel safe. You can feel safe. You can make yourself safe by submitting to their ideas, which is their programming. Despite the actual storms and the spiritual storms that the Nephilim are creating to bring fear to our hearts, we cannot submit to these fears, because fear is the absence of faith. We are to grow in our faith when we see these evil events taking place, because we know that our regathering is very near. So you hear about storms, you hear about tornadoes. I just turned on my iPad and I got this feed about Yellowstone. It's looking like it wants to blow. Now, does that bring fear to my heart? I start to rejoice in my heart, because I'm like, okay, bring it on. Bring it on, because I'm ready to go home. Are you ready to go home? So when these things are escalating around us, we start to rejoice, because our regathering is very near. Not supposed to be in fear. Let me read that again. We are to grow in our faith when we see these evil events taking place, because we know that our regathering is very near. These are all part of the tribulations that Hamashiach warned us about. So let us be reminded of what He told us. Luke chapter 21, verse 28. And when these things begin to happen, meaning the tribulation of these days, wars and rumors of wars and what have you, He said, then look up. Lift up your heads. Be exalted, meaning rejoice. For your redemption draws near. What is our redemption? When He comes to regather us, take us off this earth. So we have nothing to fear. Nothing at all. Now we're going to move on to another big device, or there are devices, there are more than one, called the CERN. I'm not going to call these words because I don't want to be, you know how they love to shut down or take down your videos and what have you. But this one is called the Large Hadron Collider. All right. So let's take a look at this one. So the first one we looked at how they're manipulating the weather. Now we're going to look at this one. And this one, they turned on this one on April 8th. You remember what happened on April 8th? There was the eclipse of the sun. All right? So they turned on this device because they claim they want to see what's going to happen in the atmosphere, blah, 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 blah. Right? Never listen to anything that these liars say. Now, this is the Large Hadron Collider, the CERN. This is it here, located on the borders of Switzerland and France. CERN is an intergovernmental organization that operates the largest particle physics lab in the world. Particles, as in nanoparticles. All right? It was established in 1954. Not long ago. It is ran by 23 member states, each of which have 2 official delegates to the CERN Council. The CERN Council controls its activities in scientific, technical, and administrative matters. Physicists and engineers are probing the fundamental structure of the universe. Now, first of all, there's no universe. There's no universe. So what is it that they're probing? If there's no universe, if we're living under a dome, then you have to know that these people are lying. There's no universe. They claim that they're looking for the glue that holds the universe together, which they call the God particle. It is also said that they are harvesting antimatter or dark matter. Now, despite what these devils say, even though it sounds quite scientific, they are still all lies. What these devils are hoping to do is to open up portals to search for their fathers, meaning the fallen angels that are locked away under the earth in the abyss, and to use these same portals as a way to escape their judgments, as in the days of the flood. So remember, in the days of the flood, some of the Nephilim, the most powerful ones, escaped through the portal on Mount Hermon. And that's why the giants came back, the Nephilim came back on the earth. So they're hoping by creating all these different portals all around the world now, at least one of them got to work. Right? But anyways, they are searching for the fallen fathers, the fallen angels, which are the ones, the 200 watchers that went into the daughters of men to create them, the Nephilim. They're searching for them to release them. All at the same time, they're creating avenues, ways in which they can escape off the earth when the judgments come against them. They know judgments are coming against them. They know that they're going to be cast into the lake of fire. So they're hoping that these portals, just like the flood, they were able to escape the flood, they're going to escape the fire. All right. There are other such colliders, but not as large as this one. This one is the largest one that they have, but they're going to build an even larger one than this. You'll see that in the next slide. Now, note this is their logo over here. All right. Now, notice the 3 6s in their logo, which tells us all that we need to know about their true agenda. So don't worry about the short stems. So this is a short stem and this is a short stem. Look instead at the long stems. The long stem here, this is 1 6. And then the next long stem is this one that goes off the page, goes off the yes, off the page. And this is another 6. And then this one here, another long stem, and this creates the third 6. Don't worry about these 2 short stems here. Look at the long stems because they extend way off the page. All right, so we know what they are all about. 3 6s, mark of the beast. We know who they are worshiping and what this is all about. So this here is the same CERN, and look at it. Doesn't it look like an eye? A giant eye. That's what it looks like. One big eye for the eye god, the one-eye god. So this CERN that looks like an eye paying tribute to their one-eye god is really a portal and nothing else. That's what it is. It's a portal. But they can't come and tell us, hey, we're trying to open up portals. And next question will be like, why are you wanting to open up portals? Where are you going, or what are you bringing into our atmosphere, into our realm? Not atmosphere, but realm. So to stop all those questions, they come with lies. Never a straight answer. That's what NASA stands for. It is really a portal and nothing else. It is 17 miles large, which is 27 kilometers, and it was built by the European Organization Nuclear Research, which stands for CERN. The tunnel is 17 miles long, or 27 kilometers long, and between 50 meters, which is 164 feet, and 175 meters, which is 574 feet below ground. So this device is below ground, between 50 meters to 175 meters. All right? So not everyone is able to get down there. So this is another picture of the different devices, the different CERN and the future circular collider. So the first one is this tiny little circle here. It's called the PS. So the first CERN, was created in 1954, called the proton synchrotron, and that is the PS. So you see how small it was in those days in 1954? So then the next one that was created is this other one called the SPS. Don't know when that one was created, but it's called the super proton synchrotron. All right. And now this one here, the LHC, which is the Large Hadron Collider, which is 27 kilometers large, or 17 miles, right? Is this creature here, is this evil device here. Looks like a metallic eye. All right. A Large Hadron Collider. And now they want to build an even the biggest one here, 100 kilometers. Look at the size here, 27 kilometers to 100 kilometers. Can you imagine? This thing is, and they're all, if you notice, they're all connecting with each other. So you have the first one that is still running, by the way, and the second, the third, and now this large one here that is coming. They're all connected with each other, connected to each other. All right? Now they're planning for an even bigger collider in the future. And that could be at the time of the Beast Empire when it rises up. All right? These people have nothing good planned for mankind and this earth, the creations of Alahayam Yahawah. Now I included this because this symbol is located in front of the CERN laboratory in Switzerland. All right? And there's a reason why this creature is standing in front of their facility, in front of their lab. Now, this is the Hindu god Shiva. Now, I spoke about this in the study called Christianity and the Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church, sorry. I believe that, yes, it's in that. Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church. All right? I believe that's what it's called. But it's that study. And I look in detail at this and what this symbolizes. So this is a Hindu god called Shiva, the god of destruction. Now, if they claim that they're looking for the glue, the God particle, first of all, we don't worship a god. They worship gods because they're Nephilim, right? You see how their lies, the things that they say to us, make no sense whatsoever? If their inventions had a wholesome purpose, why would they have the God of destruction standing in front of their facilities? It is said to be the supreme Lord who creates, protects, and transforms the universe. You see, more again about this universe, which is utter nonsense. Notice that Shiva, this is Shiva, male god, by the way, is standing or dancing on the back of a demon dwarf called Apasmara. Look at it there. That's a dwarf. All right? The symbol for human ignorance. Now, are you getting what I'm saying here? What they're using, or what they are hoping to achieve by doing their wickedness is that we are ignorant of what they're doing. And that's why they have to program and brainwash. Because when you're programmed and when you are brainwashed, you become ignorant. That means that this demon God here is operating, is influencing you, if not possessing you. You're under its influence. Even if the truth comes before your face, even if the proof is before your face, you can't accept it. You can't see it. You can't receive it because of this demon here called Apasmara, ignorance. And this is what they're hoping for the masses on this earth. That's why they program us and they brainwash us and they lie and they deceive and they cast spells using their hand gestures and what have you. And we gladly receive it all because they have lied and said that all the things that they're doing is to improve our lives, which is all a lie. All a lie. They're turning us into dummies, dumbing us down. And we're gladly being dumbed down, allowing ourselves to be dumbed down because we believe them, but we don't believe in Alahayam Yahawah. But the ones who are truly awakened, they can see through the lies and the deception. We had looked at this God in the study of Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church and recognized that Shiva is dancing in front of a portal. So this here is a portal. This here is the CERN. I kid you not. The hand and feet movements make the six-pointed star. As you see here over on this side. The head, the feet, the hands, and it has 4 hands too. Create this six-pointed star, which we know as the Star of David, that who uses as their symbol the Jewish people, the people up in there in our land. We'll get to this in a minute. This is next on the list to talk about. The Jewish people in Israel worship the six-pointed star, which they call the Star of David. There's no such thing. David never had a star. This star is a pagan symbol of this god called Shiva, which is a Hindu god. Many people, even our people who claim to be awakened, worship this symbol by wearing it or include it as a symbol on their banners. It is for this reason why we know that the people currently living in the land called Israel are not the true people of this land. They're not the true people of the Bible. Never were, never will be. There are plants that are given much credibility by the media and governments, the same one that are deceiving us and trying to program us and brainwash us. Same ones to deny the truth about the true people of this land we call Yashraal. You see, if people can believe that those people in that land called Israel are the people of the Bible, then they will believe everything else. And that's why I don't understand why our brethren know that they're not the true people that we are, and yet they want to worship the way how they worship. They want to use their language, which is not our language. They want to use their six-pointed star. They want to call on Yahweh, which is their God, one of their gods. All these different things they do. And they look to them to learn about our culture. Our culture is kind of lost. And we will regain our culture when we're regathered. What little that we can glean from the scriptures, we hold on to. The rest of it, we will regain once we're regathered. But you don't look to the liars and the fakers in our land as our standard for living, for Alahayam Yahawah. And that's why a lot of our brethren are deceived and rebellious and full of hatred, even for one another. And that's why they love marrying outside women. And that's why they claim all these other people from all these different countries are our people when they're not our people. Alahayam is keeping the tribes together, even the northern kingdom. But when I said keeping the tribes together, meaning the northern kingdom, the tribes are in Africa. Most of them are there. 99% of them are there. And he has them in their own pockets of communities, so that when it's time to pull them out, he's going to bring them out in their tribes. They're not scattered like us, the southern kingdom, because we were scattered through slavery. But yet Alahayam will tell us personally which tribe we're from. All right? These people are liars, and we look into them to learn our culture. I never heard anything so like rubbish. I mean, you go and you cry down the Christian churches, and yet you lift up these fakers. I mean, when you're ignorant, right? That's because of ignorance. The same apasmara that these people operate in. Bara'ashayah chapter 15 verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham. And lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abraham, know of surety that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. Then we drop down to verse 16. But in the fourth generation they shall come here again, meaning where Abraham was, for the iniquity of the Amorites, meaning the Nephilim offspring, is not yet full, meaning the wickedness, because Alahayam is going to allow them to reach to a certain level of wickedness, and then he's going to destroy them. It's not full yet. Now, this was a prophecy that Alahayam gave to Abraham, our forefather. And this is a prophecy that many of our brethren have gotten wrong. Even I got it wrong. All right? Because the way how Alahayam speaks, sometimes it is a prophecy that has a twofold event attached to it, or threefold. It is because of this particular scripture that our brethren are in error to think that all 12 tribes will be going into the wilderness on a second Exodus. That's the first mistake our brethren make. And that's why they're so lazy when it comes to the word of Alahayam. Oh, he's going to fix us in the wilderness. He's fixing nobody in the wilderness. If you're not ready for the regathering, speaking of the southern kingdom, because only the southern kingdom is awakened right now. And if you're not ready to be regathered, he's going to destroy you off the face of this earth. You're done. You're completely finished. The northern kingdom, they're going to have to go through their trials and tribulation with the New World Order, number 7, Beast Empire. A lot of them are going to die. A remnant is going to go into the wilderness. And even from that remnant that's going to go into the wilderness, he's still going to whittle down the numbers even more. Because a lot of them are going to be fearful. They're not going to be living by faith. And they're the only ones that are coming up with great substance. Tell me, if you're going to third heaven, you just got to use common sense now. If you know that you're being regathered in chariots to go to third heaven, tell me why would Alahayam Yahawah would give us great substance to come up with? Where are we going to take it? We don't need it where we're going. We're not even going to need a pair of shoes on our feet. Just the clothes on our backs that are going to change, by the way. Everything on our bodies are going to change. And where we're going is going to be heavenly. We don't need substance. We don't need cattle. We don't need anything. So this verse 14 is not for us. When Yahawah gave the prophecy to Abraham, he gave it in 2 portions, but we understood it as one, thinking it is all one people, when it is about the 2 kingdoms. All right? The people that were afflicted for 400 years were us. And we're the 4th generation, as well as the northern kingdom. But the northern kingdom was never afflicted. They were never slaves in the lands where they're living right now. We were the ones taken as slaves. So those that were afflicted for 400 years cannot be the northern kingdom. And yet, the 400 years, the 4th generation, is giving us a timeline for the ending of our exile. We're living in exile. We're living not in the land where we were, that was promised to us. We're living in the lands of our captivity. All right? And that's why he said, but in the 4th generation, they shall come here again. Meaning that the 12 tribes will be returned to the land called Yashraal. But until then, Alahayam is going to allow the wicked to do their worst until they fill his cup, fill it to overflowing with their wickedness, and then he's going to break out against them. All right? They're not full yet. There's still a lot more wickedness to come on this earth. And Alahayam's given them a certain leadway. They can do some things, they can't do everything. If they could, they will wipe us off the face of this earth, but they just can't. He has them restricted. It is because of this particular, I read that already, This prophecy was given to Abraham, was meant for both kingdoms, the southern kingdom first, then the northern kingdom. Many of our brethren have used calculations to try to determine our year of freedom based on when our forefathers were taken as slaves, which again is an error. So we see that the history books that they give us said 1619. We know that they're liars. So why would we believe that? Because 4 years, 400 years from 1619 is 2019, and yet we're still here, 2024. Either Alahayam is wrong or the history books are wrong. So who is it? It can't be Alahayam Yahawah. His prophecies were never wrong, are never wrong. So we cannot look at time per se as they have written the history and changed time. All right, and that's the error that we've fallen into. We cannot use the enemy's timeline, dates, or calendars to calculate our regathering because you will be misled as they have changed time. The 400 years are both actual earth years and prophetic years. It is for this reason why Alahayam Yahawah spoke about the 400 years of bondage and included the prophecy of the fourth generation. So the fourth generation allows us to know the era in which we will be regathered, which is this era. We are the fourth generation. From the time our great-great-grandmothers and grandfathers were taken from the lands in Africa. We are the generation that will see his face, that will never die, as long as we believe in him and walk in his commandments. Even the northern kingdom, they're the fourth generation that will also be regathered because time is coming to an end after 400 years, prophetic years. And I said prophetic because only Alahayam Yahawah knows when the clock started and when it ended, when it will end. So we have already, meaning the southern kingdom, we have already fulfilled our 400 years of slavery, 400 years of being afflicted. However, we're still here. So what does that tell you? It tells you that we have to follow his prophetic clock and not the earth's clock, the clock that they give to us. All right? So even though we are no longer afflicted like our forefathers were afflicted, we are still living in the lands of our captivity. We are not free yet. So we're still under bondage. So can we say that the 400 years are up? Well, his 400 years aren't up. But if you look at the earth's timeline, the earth's clock, it will seem that it's over, doesn't it? The 400 prophetic years will come to its completion when our brethren, the northern kingdom, makes it into our land, Yashraal, and not before. The southern kingdom will be regathered soon because we have fulfilled our 400 actual years of slavery and affliction. And we today are the fourth generation that are alive. Therefore, we will be the generation to be regathered. All right? So we cannot look at the earth's 400 years timeline. We have to look at Alahayam's 400 years because it's all about prophecy. All right? The 400 prophetic years will coincide with the completion of the age at 6,000 years or the 120th Jubilee. So you see what I'm saying? So that's the reason why we're still here, that even though after 400 years, because we're the fourth generation, so yes, we are technically 400 years after our forefathers were first taken. But according to Alahayam's time, his clock, it is not quite time yet. Soon though. It is going to be very, very soon. And that's why we cannot label everything according to actual time, because it is both actual time and it is also prophetic time. So, yes, we're no longer in shackles and being sold as slaves, but we're still living in the lands of our captivity because we're not free yet. As long as we're not in our land, we're not free. And we're still living under the system, still living under the evil regime that is ruling this earth. We have to be under Alahayam's government to be free, to be set free. So we're waiting for our regathering. When our regathering comes, it will trigger the beginning of the end. All right? It will trigger the beginning of the end. It will only be a matter of 7 more years before the end comes. All right? 3.5 years of great tribulation for the northern kingdom. Then they have 3.5 years to get into our land. After the 3.5 years, then their second exodus will be triggered, will begin, and they'll be heading towards the land Yashraal. They're the ones that are coming out with great substance. They're coming out with their cattle, and they're going to be gaining substance all along the way. Great wealth. Not us, not the southern kingdom. Alahayam Yahawah has his prophetic years in which he has calculated our regathering, which is not to be confused with earth's actual years. We cannot confuse the actual years with his years. And that threw me also, because I kept calculating, 2019, maybe 2020. But no such thing happened. We were not regathered. So then it has to be something else. Yes, we existed, our generation existed. We are the fourth generation. So that meant that we have been at least around for 400 years, approximately. Right? Okay. We can't do any calculations when it comes to numbers, when it comes to time, because they changed it. We don't even know if our forefathers were enslaved in 1619. We don't know that. Those are the numbers that they gave us. Those are that's the date that they had written down in the history books. So for all we know, it could be 2020. Sorry, oh my goodness, I gotta do some brain math here. So it could be some years after 1619. We don't know. All right. So they're saying 1619 and 400 years. It could have been 1624 that we were enslaved. Our forefathers were enslaved. We don't know. We do not know. It could be 1625. We don't know. Only Alahayam know. But we are the fourth generation. So our time of affliction is over. All right? Let's read the Barayam, chapter 28, verse 68. And Yahawah shall bring you, that's the book of Deuteronomy, by the way, chapter 28, verse 68. And Yahawah shall bring you on into Matzarayam, which means the house of bondage. So when our forefathers were in Goshen, which is in Matzarayam, Egypt, it was the house of bondage. But in this case, where Masha is talking to the 12 tribes, and he's talking about a future generation, and he's mentioning Matzarayam again, it is symbolic of the house of bondage, the same kind of bondage that our forefathers, when they were in Goshen, were in or under. Okay? So, and Yahawah shall bring you into Matzorayim again with ships, by the way whereof I spoke unto you. You shall see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, the question I have here, when in history of the Jewish people, the people living in Israel right now, were they ever taken in ships, in stocks and shackles by their enemies to be sold as slaves? Has that ever happened to them? There's only one people on this earth that has happened to, and scattered to the four corners of the earth. I know some people say, well, the Irish were made slaves and these people were made slaves. Where are the Irish right now? They're still in their land, called Ireland. We're the only people that have no land, called by our name, because they took away our name, because they took away our land. And they plant the fakers up in there and tell them that they're the true people of the Bible. That's why they hate the land and they disrespect the Most High by worshiping idols. They can't help themselves. They're plants. And they're there for a purpose. And that's why all the upheaval and the chaos and the skirmishes and all the different things happening up in there, don't let that bother you. There's no prophecy being fulfilled with those skirmishes and stuff that's going on up in there, the conflicts that are going on up in there. There's no prophecy going on on their behalf. Absolutely not. The prophecies are meant for Yashwa'al and Yashwa'al alone. They have never been sold as slaves. They came from the Caucasus Mountains and took over Europe. And then all of a sudden, they left Europe and then they were planted in our land and called Israel. And that's not even our name, by the way. All right, let's move on. Almost finished. So this is the symbol of Shiva. And the six-pointed star is made up of two triangles. The triangle pointing upward is Shiva. The triangle pointing downward is Shakti. And together they make Murugan. All right, so let's read what it says here. The six-pointed star or hexagram is one of the oldest universal symbols that goes all the way back to ancient India, being known as the Shatkona, which represents the union of the masculine and feminine energies of the soul. Now, does this sound familiar? Remember what we did in part 1 and even in the other studies of the signs of the times, when we looked at how these people have inverted themselves. They have both male and female attributes. They're male on the inside and female on the outside, or vice versa. That's this god that they worship, called Shiva. The unification gives birth to Murugan, aka Krishna. You ever heard of I think it's called Hare Krishna? That's another religion, by the way. Skanda, Kartikeya, or Sanat Kumara, being a complete androgynous representation of the magnum opus, or what is known as Godhead. He was sometimes depicted having 6 heads, signifying the 6 siddhis or powers that are bestowed to one over the course of their spiritual development. His heads also relates to the 6 syllables of the mantra. I'm not going to pronounce that. Denoting to God Sanat as the primal sound. It is also the symbol of the sun, which is associated with the 666, the number of life and perfection. So that's why now, when you look at this, CERN 666. And you remember when the entertainers are putting up the three sixes, and I showed you a few of them that were inverted. They look like males, but they're actually females, and vice versa. This is the God that they worship. This God here, Shiva, having both male and female energies, because they believe that the perfect body is one that has both male and female. And they will even go as far to say that when God took the rib out of Adam to create Eve, is because he had both male and female inside of him, which is utter nonsense, right? Utter nonsense. Now we see a clear connection between religions, which are really the worship of the Nephilim gods, the fallen angels, and their technologies. They use what we call science to derive these inventions. But what really is science? Science is knowledge. But not the knowledge from Alahayam, but knowledge from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the evil device of the fallen angels. Now, when you look over here at the Masons' compass and square, they form the same two triangles to make a six-pointed star. So someone drew a line here and a line down there, and we have here the six-pointed star. Now, I've seen this particular shape with another symbol. All right. So each triangle that makes up the six-pointed star represents the male energy and female energy. So the triangle with the point upwards, this is Shiva, this is the male energy. And this is the female energy, Shakti. All right? And that's the triangle pointing downwards. This is all in connection with the idea of the perfect being having both genders in one body, the abomination of the Nephilim. All right? So are these symbols that look identical to each other coincidences? I told you there's no such thing. Or are they telling us something that we are too ignorant to recognize? Remember, Shiva dances on the back of the demon Apasmara, which represents ignorance. So if you can't see it, you're under the influence of Apasmara. So we have here Murugan's Shatkona Yantra, also known to the Western world as the Star of David. So the Jewish people call it the Star of David. It is a Hindu symbol representing the Shiva Shakti gods. Murugan is actually, and it points to the Murugan, both male and female energies in one body. That's why they love this idea of an androgynous looking people. They want people to be androgynous, looking neither male nor female, but you look like both. All right? And that's why they have introduced to the world now all the surgeries and the chemicals that people can take to make that change. If the Father permits me, I will do a small presentation to show you this is true, this is real. People have actually documented their changes over a period of 2-3 years after taking the chemicals and doing the surgeries. Not joking. It's not hideous to look at, it's just an eye-opener. And what you think that you're looking at a very pretty man or a beautiful man is actually a woman in drag, a woman that has been converted. That's why you see all the new actors and actresses, they have this pretty look about them. Men with red lips. Right? A real man does not have red lips. That's a woman. All right? Or they're wearing lipstick. One of the two. Either way, they're still not who you think they are. Okay, true knowledge versus science. Bara'ashayath chapter 3 verse 6. And when a woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. Now, let's look at the book of Adam and Hawa, first book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 3, verse 7. But before that, Alahayam had made his covenant with our father Adam in the same terms before he came out of the garden, when he was by the tree where Hawa took of the fruit and gave it to him to eat. Talking about the tree of knowledge. Because when our father Adam came out of the garden, he passed by that tree and saw how Alahayam had changed the appearance of it into another form, and how it had shriveled. So when they first looked upon the tree, it was a beautiful tree to behold. But after they sinned, Adam and Hawa sinned, Alahayam cursed it, and it shriveled up. And now it was hideous to their eyes. But it was too late. All right, because they ate of the fruit, and that fruit is called rebellion or disobedience. Adam and Hawa sought after knowledge outside the will of Alahayam Yahawah. They felt what appealed to their senses and would satisfy them to make them great like gods. This was the deception that brought about their fall, to think that knowledge outside the will of Alahayam Yahawah could ever make us great, to be like gods. So this deception to be great, to be like gods, was what was their downfall, and it still is our downfall today. I have it worded kind of strange. It is this evil knowledge that has been redressed as science that is bringing about the same effects and deception as in the days of Adam and Hawa. Mankind is being deceived to think that he can achieve greatness and godlike stature without Alahayam Yahawah through the use of science and technology. But these devices are not created to make mankind great, but to demote mankind into an abomination before the eyes of Alahayam Yahawah. This is also another deception within the deception of gaining higher knowledge that is really going to be the downfall of mankind, whoever submits. So they tell us, you want to be great, you got to use our technology. You got to be conformed and transformed. But that is a deception within another deception, because the real deception is for them to bring us down, to demote us, to make us become an abomination. Because once they know we have become abominable, meaning taking on their changes, changing our genome and what have you, then Al-Hayam is going to destroy us. That is their real goal. Before they sinned, Adam and Hawa had a high stature on the earth, as all the creation of Alahayam were placed beneath them, including the angels. The angels trembled before Adam and Hawa before they sinned. And after they sinned, now Adam and Hawa trembled before the angels. Why? The angels, when they looked upon Adam and Hawa, they were exuding the glory of Alahayam Yahawah. And the angels trembled before him. So naturally, they would tremble before them, Adam and Hawa. But once that glory was shut off, then now they were made lower than the angels. And now they begin to tremble before the angels. They were able to commune with him face to face. Speaking of Adam and Hawa being able to commune with Alahayam Yahawah, because they were made in his image, therefore they were perfect. Yet this deception and disobedience caused them to almost lose it all, including their lives. Meaning that they could have been just like the fallen angels. If he had allowed them to remain in the garden of Odan, They could have eaten of the tree of life because they would have been persuaded by the same devil to eat of the tree of life, and then their fate would have been sealed forever, and they would have been cast into the lake of fire along with the devils. That's why Alahayam Yahawah cast them out of the garden to preserve them, even though now they had transgressed. So they lost it all. They almost lost it all. And thankfully, Alahayam foresaw this event and had created a way back for them and their righteous descendants. So he told them, and it says in the Apocrypha 5,500 years, but it's really 6,000 years, that he's going to return us back to the garden, back into his presence, to live with him, to dwell with him forevermore. But this is only for the righteous people, the righteous of the northern kingdom, southern kingdom, which will become the 12 tribes once again. And of course, there's a remnant of the Gentiles. It is because of their initial fall that had rendered mankind to be subjected to evil in all of its wicked forms. And the only way to overcome is to submit to Alahayam. When Adam's and Hawa's eyes were opened, it meant that their spirit within their soul bodies had fallen asleep. The glory that once came from within them, exuding outward, formed a light garment that dressed them. Once their spirit became comatose, it meant that their connection to Alahayam was shut off. Therefore, his glory that flowed to them through their spirit was shut off. Now they were naked and exposed. Their spiritual eyes shut off as well, leaving them with only the natural eyes to see with. So don't forget that they were both natural and physical and spiritual, because that's the way how Alahayam Yahawah created Adam and Hawa, to be both physical and spiritual. They became natural beings, bare to the eyes of Alahayam and the elements outside the garden. So in order for them to now tolerate life outside of the garden, Alahayam Yahawah had to cover them in flesh. And this is the flesh that we struggle against daily, because it has its animal desires and is easily manipulated by the devils. If our spirit man is asleep, or if we subject our spirit man to evil. And when I said evil, I mean things that we're not supposed to be looking at, reading, watching, or listening to. If we subject our spirit man that has been awakened, empowered by Ruach HaKadosh, and we spend time in prayers, reading the scriptures, and communing with Alahayam Yahawah, so that now he fills us with his light, which is truth, then flesh man becomes submitted beneath the spirit, our spirit man, our soul, and the spirit man. But because we are feeding the wrong man, if we're indulging in things that we're not supposed to indulge in, things that are corrupting us, and we don't even know it, we just think this is just our guilty pleasure. There's no such thing. Unless you're eating chocolate and you know you're not supposed to eat it, right? But if you're indulging in things that will corrupt your soul, that will cause spirit man now to become weakened and be subjected or be submitted under the flesh now. We know that the devils have a field day with our flesh man, because the flesh wants what it can't have. It desires things that are wicked and evil. But once you rein this man in, that flesh man in, through the word of Alahayam, the power of Alahayam, and have him under subjection constantly. All right? Now, our soul and spirit can rise up and worship and live righteously before Alahayam. This is the battle that we're in our bodies. And now we're bombarded with these external devices that can penetrate us because they're evil devices. They're devices that can be used by evil spirits. That's why when you look at certain things on the television, it haunts you. All right? It causes certain desires to rise up within us that normally would not. You're watching a television show, all of a sudden people started making out. And if you are weak in that area, then it causes you to feel a certain way. Now, someone who is spiritually sound would turn it off and move on to something else. But someone who is weak now, there's a part that will within you that will say, I just want to see just one more minute of it. Then I'll pray about it afterwards. But you know that would never happen. Because from that one moment of watching something that you're not supposed to be watching, then comes other thoughts and other ideas, which leads to other actions. This is how these devils work. You give them a pinhole to come in, and they will erode it until it becomes like the size of a doorway. That all these other demons now will come in and bring all their wicked thoughts and ideas to your mind. And not to mention the guilt, the condemnation, everything all rolled into one. The shame, everything. Don't give in to their devices. Don't give in. And when I say device, I'm not talking about the physical devices. I'm talking about their spiritual wickedness that they used against us, that they devise against us. If you know that you're weak in an area, you're subject to fear because of whatever the reason is, then you just don't watch anything that will bring fear to your heart. Because these devils can penetrate even through these devices. I'm talking about the television or videos or what have you, even music. They can make subliminal suggestions to you through music. You're listening to this rap song and it sounds really good because it's your favorite artist and he's a conscious rapper and whatnot. But when you roll that music backwards and you hear the backward masking, all the suggestions that they're speaking to your subconscious, and you wonder why you feel like, oh, I could go and smoke a spliff now. I don't know, they call them that these days, but back in my days, they used to call them a spliff. Oh, I can go and smoke a spliff now. Oh, yeah, I remember Judy. Oh, I should give her a call. Next thing you know, you end up in trouble. You understand? These are the devices that they use against us to corrupt us, and we give in to them because we spend little time with Alahayam Yahawah, and so the devices, whether it is spiritual devices or physical devices, they all work together to bring us down. and we give in to them. When we spend very little time with Alahayam Yahawah. All right? Spend little time with him. All right, let's finish up. This is the last slide. Let's see where we left off. Today, as the offspring of Adam and Hawa, we're still subject to this tree of knowledge of good and evil on a spiritual level, as this tree was destroyed from off this earth. This tree is no longer here physically, but it is here spiritually. It's called rebellion. And when we eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then we will automatically become disobedient. Disobedience is the fruit of this tree derived from rebellion against Alahayam and his word. The fallen angels and the Nephilim know this, and they are still using this tactic to bring destruction to mankind. The desire to be great and to be godlike is a deception and a tool of destruction at the same time. That's why you got the prosperity preachers out there talking about we are little gods. All right. They're all part of the Nephilim package. I kid you not. Listen, if you're a Christian, you need to come out of the church. All part of the Nephilim package. Wickedness. In the name of science, we are told that mankind will progress and be advanced to embrace all of its technologies. And we will have to embrace all of its technologies in order to grow beyond our natural limitations. So they want us to believe that if we embrace science, if we embrace technology, right, it can make us great. It can make us godlike. Like they even have technology now where they want to remove certain D-N-A- or what have you within a person's genome. Like if they're having a child, you can design your baby. All right. I'm going to look at that in the next study. You can design your baby, but you know that's a sleeve, right? That's no longer a person that stemmed from Adam and Hawa. The breath that came from Adam and Hawa. All right? It's a sleeve, genetically manipulated. So Alahayam will withhold himself from that creature. And now it becomes an empty body with no soul and no spirit. So evil spirits will come in and take over. They want us to redesign ourselves. All right? They want us to be rebellious, to rebel against Alahayam. They want us to embrace becoming a hybrid like they are by introducing nanotechnology in our genome. We're going to look at that too. And once those things go in, you can't take them out because they go in to reprogram our D-N-A. Reprogram us on a genetic level. And when that happens, then we are no longer in the image of Alahayam. We are no longer what he created. Now, we have to understand that, yes, we were all sinners, but we still had the original genome that was handed down to us from the original Adam and Hawa. But when you change that, then you have no hope for salvation. None whatsoever. You put stuff in your body, you have no hope. And it changes. You don't even, You may not necessarily feel a change, but then again, you could deceive yourself and say, well, I don't really feel any different. But a lot of them, a lot of people that took the toxin, they're depressed. They feel empty. They feel angry, and they don't know why. You can't have a civil conversation with them. And they don't make any sense either. They're talking to you, like scratching your head, like, what in the world are you talking about? You make no sense. You have no common sense anymore. Anyways, let's move on. But at what cost? At what cost are we going to do this to change ourselves? There's no ending to the wickedness that is wielded against us, and we're succumbing to the oldest tactic there ever was. Science is a religion, and science is here to destroy all of mankind if it could, or at the least, transform mankind to be their abominations. That's what science is here for. Science is not here to advance us. That's the biggest lie, one of the biggest lies that they've told us. And that's why when you find people that study science, even if they come from a family that are believers, they're no longer a believer. Because all the lies that they teach them in science refute creation. They call it the creation theory. All right? It refutes it for them. There are very few that try to balance science and Christianity, but we know Christianity is a religion just like science is a religion. So you can't balance the two. And you'll find that those people are way off too. They are just as off as people that are, what do you call them? Atheists. They're just as off as they are. Because science is a religion. And that's why technology will become the religion on the earth. The one thing that the Satan that will run the beast empire, number 7, will cause people to bow down to technology. Technology will control every aspect of people's lives and watch everything that they do, because all the appliances in the home now, they're going to create with cameras. That's why they're getting you used to devices like, and I looked at it, but it's not included in this particular study, but it's going to be included in that study. It's Alexa, the speaker that you can speak to. And they're introducing doorbells with cameras. They have cameras all over the place. You have cameras in your cell phone. You have cameras on your laptop. You have cameras everywhere. Television. They can watch you without you even knowing that you're being watched. And more appliances in the home is going to come with spyware to spy on you, to make sure that you are not coming against them or you're not ganging up together against them. All right? This is coming in the future. This is what the beast empire is going to look like. Thankfully, the southern kingdom will not be here. We're not going to be here for all of this. But we're seeing it emerging. Let's look at first Yochanan, the first book of John, chapter 2, verse 15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of Abba is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life, is not of Abba, but is of the world. So these 3 examples here that Yochanan is telling us to be aware of are the same 3 temptations that were used against Adam and Hawa and against Hamashiach. Adam and Hawa succumbed to these three temptations. Hamashiach did not. He refuted each and every one of these temptations with a word, the word that he is, but it's the word of his Father. And this was when he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and then actually, let me go back. He was baptized by Yochanan, the baptizer. Then he went into the wilderness and he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And then the tempter came and he brought these three temptations: the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, to draw him away from his purpose. But he refuted every single one of those temptations with the word, to teach us today that we can resist the enemy only with his word, and not just a word that you can recite because you memorized it, but it has to be a word that has been revealed within you, meaning the truth. You understand the truth of that word, the truth that is hidden inside that word, because now that truth becomes a light in you. He hates the light. The devil hates the light. So that when you repeat the word now, when you recite the word, you're not reciting it out of memory, but you're reciting it with the power of Alahayam Yahawah. And that's what destroys the darkness and the temptation. But many people think all they need to do is memorize the word, and that's it. It's not about memorizing. All right? It's not about memorizing the word. You now need to consume. That word needs to bind itself to you. You need to have a bond with that word. That word needs to be connected to you internally. So that when you speak it, the devils will run. You can't even finish the sentence and they're gone already. Gone. But Adam and Hawa, they succumbed to these three temptations. Verse 17, and the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that does the will of Alahayam abides forever. So when you live for Alahayam Yahawah and you love Alahayam Yahawah and you walk in obedience to his word, you're dwelling now in his presence and he is dwelling in you. Then guess what happens to us? We now can abide with him forevermore. Now we can dwell in his kingdom. Now we can be regathered to dwell with him forevermore. There's no other way. You see, all these devices, all this wickedness and everything that you see happening around us, there's coming an ending to it. Even the things in this world that Alahayam created, the sun, moon, and stars, they're all going to be destroyed. Even the earth is going to be destroyed. The heavens are going to be destroyed at the end of the age, and he's going to replace it all with new heavens, new earth, and new Yerushalayim. And he, Yahawah, and his son is going to be the light on the earth forevermore. And all these things are going to pass away. And wickedness is going to be cast into the lake of fire forevermore, never to see his creation ever again. His goodness. Even the people that foolishly follow after these wicked ones and believe in their narratives and obey their agendas, they're going to end up in the lake of fire. And there's no repentance, there's no apology, there's nothing you can do to get out once you end up there. There's nothing. And he definitely will not be hearing you even when you cry out. All right? He will not be hearing you. And that's why now is the time for us to get our house, our spiritual house in order. I'm showing you these things so that you can see how we have been manipulated. Even our very thoughts are being manipulated. All right? Do not be deceived. That was the first warning that Hamashiach told his disciples in Matthew chapter 24. Do not be deceived. Satan is like a roaring lion, seeking, he's roaming to and fro, seeking whom he may devour. All right? Okay, so that's the ending of this study. And we're going to go on, carry on with more technologies. And these are the big ones that I wanted us to take a look at because these are the ones that, they're atmospheric, right? So now we're going to get a little more personal with their technology. All right. I mean, it's all big stuff. Don't worry. But it's just that these ones now are the ones that people would not even have heard about. Because I would mention this to some people. They're like, what is that? And this is something that I've learned about for many years. So I present it to you so that you can be informed. All right. So that when you see certain things happening, don't think that it is a coincidence, but it is all part of their plans, part of their strategy. Okay? So let's end with the blessing for Yashwa'al taken from Ba Madabar, chapter 6, verses 24 to 26, and that's the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahawah wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahawah panayo alayak wa yachanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahawah panayo alayak wa yasham lak shalawam. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And now I'm going to recite the command of Alahayam Yahawah that he told us that we need to recite when we lie down, when we get up, when we go out, and when we come in, taken from Debarayam chapter 6, verses 4 and 5, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. Shama'o Yashwa'al, Yahawah Alahayana, Yahawah Ahad, wa Ahabath Af, Yahawah Alahayak, Bakal Babak, Wabakal Napashat, Wabakal Ma'adak. Hear, O Yashwa'al, Yahawah our Alahayam is one Yahawah, and you shall love Yahawah your Alahayam with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And with that, I will say, Shalawam, Shalawam, all praises to the Most High, Abba Yah.